Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Mirror Mama, who says, "Am I the arsehole here for staying in no contact with my family, even though my stepmother is dying? I am female 36, my husband male 34, my father is male 60, stepmother female I think late 50s or early 60s. My stepmother is dying of cancer. She was apparently diagnosed somewhere around a year ago to my knowledge, and although she apparently went through many treatments, things have deteriorated very quickly. She's now only expected to have a few days, when she was told a couple of months ago that it was looking like a possible 12 months plus. My aunt called me today and asked me to put everything behind us and go and see her before she dies. She thinks I'll regret it if I don't. The problem is, I don't actually want to. For some background, my relationship with my stepmother was never openly abusive in a noticeable way. It was more years of subtle digs, passive-aggressive comments, and feeling like my thoughts and opinions didn't matter and my input was often rejected in family discussions. She sometimes spoke negatively about my mum in front of me in my youth, and if something went wrong in my life, there always seemed to be an implication that I'd somehow brought it upon myself. She always offered help with things I needed, like cover letter writing for jobs when I was younger, etc. But in times where I needed her to use her maturity and compassion, she would side with my brother/her mother, and my sister and I's points would be squashed. She once growled at me, "You're not a parent, you can't tell me anything about raising a child." When I brought up with her that I was concerned about my brother being left to play computer games for days on end until he toileted himself and sat in it, I was chastised for speaking up while he was told he lost his games for a week, but would have then returned by the end of the day. I was a youth and my brother was around 4. My dad always sided with her, even when I felt she was clearly out of line. He'd either defend her or tell me to let it go. Over time I stopped feeling like I had a dad who was really in my corner. Her mother also had a serious alcohol problem and would become verbally abusive towards me when she drank. Instead of standing up for me, my dad and stepmother would tell me to stay quiet because otherwise she'd keep everyone awake by drinking more, shouting and slamming doors. I was basically expected to accept being spoken to like that because it made life easier for everyone else. Eventually, I reached my limit. I calmly told her I wasn't willing to be spoken to that way anymore. I wasn't screaming or throwing a tantrum. I simply said I wouldn't accept it. Instead of being supported, I was criticized by both my dad and stepmother. Fast forward a few years, my daughter was born on 5th of January 2025. Before she arrived, I sent everyone who planned to meet her a list of newborn boundaries. Things like washing hands, no kissing the baby, no strong perfume, keeping voices down, and giving her back when she needed feeding. One of those boundaries was that everyone with poor hygiene wouldn't be holding my newborn. This became relevant because my half-brother, I may sometimes refer to him as brother, has struggled for years with severe depression and self-neglect. I genuinely feel for him because I've struggled with my own mental health before. At the same time, his hygiene had deteriorated to the point that his body odor was overwhelming. When I reluctantly invited him to my wedding, I saw guests around him trying to hide their gagging. My half-brother has also always been the golden child. My stepmother adored him and, in my opinion, enabled him for years rather than encouraging him to become independent. Even before his depression, he was rarely expected to do much for himself. I actually spent years trying to encourage him, telling him he deserved better and was capable of more. But every time I tried, I was told to leave him alone or made to feel like I was causing problems. Months before my daughter was born, I'd already sent everyone the newborn boundaries. My sister later told me that she and my stepmother had discussed the hygiene rule in the car, and my stepmother asked if I was referring to my brother. My sister apparently replied that it was obvious because he was dirty. So my stepmother already knew exactly what that boundary applied to before they even came to visit. When they came to meet my daughter about 4 weeks after she was born, my stepmother still asked me in front of everyone if I'd make an exception because he's your brother. I said no. I wasn't trying to embarrass him or punish him. I just wasn't willing to compromise my newborn's health to avoid hurting an adult's feelings. During that same visit, I also spoke to my half-sister. I may sometimes refer to her as sister. She had begged me throughout my pregnancy to be there when I gave birth. Hospital policy technically meant she was too young to attend, It was over 18s only in the birthing suite, and she was a mature 17 at the time, but I arranged everything anyway. But for my induction, she stayed at our house. I cooked her favorite meal, bought snacks, made up the spare room with fresh bedding, and gave her my Switch and PlayStation while we waited. The plan was that once I was moved from induction ward to the delivery suite, we'd send her an Uber. When that time came, my husband called her, but she said she'd changed her mind because she was tired and had decided to go to her boyfriend's house instead. When I found out after giving birth, I was devastated. So during the visit, I told her honestly how much that had hurt me. She cried and had a panic attack, and Dad said he hadn't known about this and then stayed quiet for the rest of the visit. After that, there was almost complete silence. My stepmother, brother, and sister never called, never texted, never checked how I or my daughter were doing. Before then, I'd always been the one making the effort, especially with my brother. At one point, I realized the last message he'd sent me in over 2 years had only been to remind me it was his birthday because I hadn't messaged him yet, even though it was still the morning of. My dad contacted me a handful of times, and I'd send him photos of my daughter. He'd tell me how beautiful she was, but he never asked if I needed help, never offered to visit, never asked how I was coping, and never offered any practical support. I was a first-time mum, recovering from childbirth, living with a disability, exhausted, struggling mentally, and trying to adjust to motherhood. I wasn't expecting anyone else to raise my child. I just wanted my dad to look at me, see that I was struggling, and ask, "What do you need?" Instead, it felt like nobody really saw me. During that period, my birthday came and went, and every single year of my life, my dad had wished me a happy birthday. We've spoken on the phone, and he'd always sent me a little birthday money. This was the first year that never happened. He also forgot my husband's birthday. I know my stepmother was unwell by then. I genuinely understand that life must have been incredibly difficult for them. This isn't about the money. What hurt was feeling like I'd quietly stopped existing. At a time when it already felt like the rest of the family had forgotten me, losing that one tradition with my dad made me feel forgotten too. After around 10 months of this, I blocked everyone. The final straw came when my dad phoned me because he was worried he might be seriously ill. I was genuinely concerned for him, but during the same conversation where he told me he was scared for his life, he suddenly chirpily brought up the fact that I'd blocked my sister on Instagram and started grilling me about it. It made me feel like that was what he really wanted to talk about. So I decided to cut contact completely. Since then, my mental health has improved enormously. My life is peaceful. My daughter is thriving. I don't spend my time walking on eggshells anymore. Now my stepmother is dying, and suddenly I'm being asked to come back because she's family. I don't hate her, and I certainly don't wish this illness on her, but I also don't feel that dying erases years of hurt or makes me responsible for repairing relationships that nobody else tried to repair while there was still time. I've thought a lot about whether I'd regret not seeing her. Honestly, I think I'd be more likely to regret putting myself back into a family dynamic that caused me so much pain that I regret missing one final goodbye. I also have been dwelling today on my dad, since it made me imagine about the pain of losing a partner. But I'm trying to trust my decision and continue with my own family in my own life and not re-enter a boundary that may very well cause us further distress. Am I the arsehole here for staying in no contact with my family, including my dying stepmother? I'm happy to answer questions. Thanks. Now look, it's sad that stepmother is dying, and I genuinely feel for anyone who's facing that, but at the same time, a terminal diagnosis doesn't erase everything that's happened, doesn't erase the decades of hurt that OP has been through. And the only way I would advise going back into that family is if it was to benefit you in any way. And you said you're likely to regret stepping back into the family dynamic than missing one final goodbye. And that was enough for me. And I just keep coming back to the dad. He had a long time to step in and support his daughter, or even asking the basics. And that's all OP wanted really, was a "how are you doing?" Instead, anytime there was a situation, anytime there was some kind of conflict, it was easier to tell OP to let it go, family, than actually stand up for her. None of this was about one argument. It was about years of being made to feel like her needs came second. And it's a question I ask in a lot of these stories, and that the older I get, the more I question myself. It's like, what does this person, what do these people, regardless of who it is, what do they bring to your life? And even though it's family in this situation, which I know is very easy for me to say, as I always say, I'm sat behind a microphone talking absolute nonsense, doing it is a different thing. But if stepping back in this situation changes your life for the better, gives you that peace, you should absolutely be doing it. A commenter says to OP, not the arsehole, you don't owe your stepmom your presence. Whether she's dying or not, you don't have the kind of relationship with her where you need to be at her deathbed. You can go to the funeral if you want to show support to other family members, but even that is up to you. Be free. If you don't want to go, don't go. Another commenter says, not the arsehole. They showed you they wouldn't be there for you when you needed. They allowed abuse and cruelty. They didn't behave as family towards you, ever. You do not have to say goodbye to her for your absent father's sake. Keep your peace. Commenter says, a colleague of mine didn't attend her mother's funeral due to the abuse she had suffered when she was younger. I was worried she'd later come to regret it, but she was adamant she wouldn't, and she was right. Don't worry about what other people, your aunt, tell you about needing to go. People who have not had abusive childhoods will always view these things in a different way to yourself. You've clearly thought long and hard about the decision to not attend, and as long as you also recognize that your decision to not go may mean any future relationship with your dad or brother would be impossible, then I say, do what you know in your heart to be right. I'm sorry for the way you were treated as a child, but applaud you for surviving it and developing into what appears to be a very well-rounded and thoughtful adult. Riker says, you're being asked to come back into the fold because your dad doesn't want to be the only person responsible for the immature adults he helped raise with your stepmother, and nobody else in the family does either. Your family wants you back as a caretaker, not because they want you in their lives again. Not the arsehole here. Opie says, this is what my husband said too. Just to be clear, my dad is not asking for me to come back, but he is trying to reach out / ask how I'm doing through my aunt, since I blocked his number. But yes, I feel the possible regret from how everything turned out may be lingering. I don't think that's at the front of his mind at all right now, but I'll perhaps be able to judge at some point in the future. Another commenter says, not the arsehole, dying doesn't erase the past. It doesn't even out all the crap that they did. My mother had stage 4 cancer for 2 frickin' years, and she was her arsehole self the whole time. She got worse over time. My father had died of another type of cancer a decade before him. It spread to his brain and he was super funny towards the end because he lost his filter. Sure, I could have taken offense to his comments, i.e. you may be a bee at times, but you cared deeply for those around you. But it was all true and not a surprise. Lol. One more commenter who says, people who say you regret not visiting or forgiving obviously didn't grow up with emotionally immature or neglectful parents. All they see in your background is all the ways the adults demanded you meet their needs and the needs of the other children, and no one even giving lip service to your own needs. You keep meeting your needs and the needs of your daughter and let those folks go. They don't see you or care, so you can match their energy without guilt or shame. Not the arsehole. So at some point later, OP does come in with the update. They shared the link to the original and then said, so in terms of the near future, I feel the situation will continue to naturally update in one way or another. And I will eventually update what the final outcome will be based on my final choices if any of you are interested. I'll update in the future on the other subreddit if you can remember me and my story, and I'll link that destination in a comment below when it's posted, if that's permitted. But here goes for today. Update. I had to call my aunt just now to ask her to be my guarantor for us moving house. I missed a message from her earlier that said she was going to my dad's house / stepmother's bedside today. And when I called, she didn't tell me right away, as I was outside in the heat with 10 bags of groceries and a baby and pram, out of breath and rushing my request. After we discussed that matter, she told me she was there paying her respects and saying goodbye, and I apologized for imposing and that I missed her message and I didn't know. She said not to worry at all. Then she said, your dad is next to me. Would you like to speak to him? But I paused, and before I said, not right now, he took the phone from her and said softly, Wagwan, his usual jolly greeting he always gave me, with a somber undertone I could hear. I was a deer in headlights and said, I can't do this right now, quite dismissively, and he said, that's okay, not to worry, I understand, and handed the phone back to my aunt. We then wrapped up the phone call. In that moment, hearing my dad greet me like that for the first time since last February shook my heart a little. His voice was the same person, but I could hear every undertone, his slight hoarseness, exhaustion from his situation. I messaged my aunt after and said, I appreciate that you're so hoping Dad and I talk again, but I feel like in this moment with everything going on and emotions high, it's not the right time for either of us. She'll take it well and most likely apologize. But now I'm just sat staring at the wall trying to process my feelings. I know you all said I'm not the arsehole, and pretty much all of you, plus my best friend and husband, think I should stay true to no contact, but whatever I choose is fine. I'm silently quaking under the pressures I have right now. Imminent house move / lawyer court thing / etc. And I'm starting to feel desperate that I don't know who I am anymore in this situation and the right path to take. I can't bear how I was treated postpartum and everything else. It stings, and apparently I'm not a bad person. But why does it kind of feel like I am? Hearing my father's voice so soft and frail in that moment was a side of him I've never heard before. When he spoke, I felt my pupils dilate. I'm going to hold my own hand when I confess this. I think I miss my dad. Oh my, what should I do? I feel so lost. I can't concentrate. I feel a pressure in my chest. It feels like, I don't know. I've also been having visions since hearing the news yesterday of my stepmother in the front room hospital bed in their house. The death rattle and my dad's stoic, staying strong for my siblings, who I know will absolutely lose the plot, and finally slipping away into the garden to sob it out. Why am I having these visions? Am I caring too much? Not enough? Most of you help me to understand the situation in many different lights, and I so very much appreciate that. I'm hoping maybe you can all see from the fly-on-the-wall perspective after this update and tell me if I'm being weak/too empathetic and putting my own priorities in second place, or if having compassion should change my mind and comfort him/them through this hard time, despite the mistakes that were made. The update got to me on this one, I gotta admit, because clearly OP's going through a lot of complicated feelings and all this kind of stuff. Hearing her dad's voice clearly brought back a lot of emotions for her. In some ways, it's still like the very first part of the post is missing your dad. It doesn't erase all the years of hurt that you've been going through. And stay in no contact doesn't mean that you stop loving him. Both things can be true at once. But what I'm really hoping that OP doesn't do is let guilt convince her that she owes a reunion of some sort. Again, like the first part of the post, if she chooses to speak to her dad, it should be because she wants to, with her own boundaries in place, not getting sucked into the dynamic that was there before. Because I think it could be quite easy, and I'm not saying they will, but it could be quite easy that people pile on the pressure on OP while emotions are running high. And it broke my heart for OP saying that line that I think I miss my dad. Because as we can see in this post, OP isn't missing the family dynamic that caused her so much pain. She's missing the father she wished she had. So whatever OP decides, I hope she just remembers that you don't have to sacrifice yourself. You can feel empathy for someone without sacrificing yourself at the same time. I'm just going to cover a couple of the top comments just to get a gist of what's going on there. The first one says, the family punching bag always feels guilty when they stop letting themselves be the scapegoat. It's been burned into you. It's how you're wired after spending your childhood like this. Normal feels like making yourself small and convenient for your father and stepmother and siblings, and for you, it is normal. But that doesn't make it okay or right. It's natural to feel like you miss the familiar, but just because something is familiar doesn't make it good. Think back about what you wrote last time, about how cutting contact helped your mental health. Ask yourself if resuming it feels like it would be good for you. Sometimes we miss idealized versions of what our family could have been or should have been, but the father, brother, and sister you're longing to reconnect with are not the people you would meet if you went back. Those people never really existed. The people you'd be reconnected with are the same ones you left. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, because it's your life and you deserve support no matter what decision you make. I just want to make sure you don't set yourself up for disappointment. All those old problems will still be there because none of them think they're actually problems and none of them made any effort to change. You can tell from the ways they interact with you and the ways they don't interact with you. And one more who says, we bonded to these people before going no contact. We can't help bonding. It's how we're wired. We cleave onto the people who our livelihood depends on when we're children so we can survive. That's what enables us to endure all manner of fuckery from these people. It's what makes it so hard to go no contact. Your dad is feeling vulnerable and you're responding to that. I doubt he's trying to be manipulative, but the fact of the matter is still, he's self-centered. His grief is tethered to the person who abused you, and he wants you to be there for him in a way he refused to be there for you. There's no easy decisions here. Ultimately, whatever you decide will and should be something you can live with. You have a family now that is bonding to you and relying on you now. Perhaps they can be your North Star that guides the decisions you make next rather than your trauma. Will crossing the no contact line with your dad impact your ability to parent, model, or otherwise be there for your kids now? Truly wishing you all the healing and best, OP. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? What would you advise to OP? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from the True Off My Chest subreddit from a throwaway account who says, I hate my sister for how hurtful she was to my girlfriend. It was completely unnecessary. I have a girlfriend, but the relationship is still new. My girlfriend has a prominent scar across one of her cheeks from a melanoma. To me, the scar makes no difference, but she has good days and bad days about it. My sister is getting married soon. I'm not taking my girlfriend because a wedding with hundreds of guests and family is a lot of pressure for a brand new relationship. Plus, I had already RSVP'd that I was going alone before and bought my plane ticket back home before we were serious. My sister took the time to look up my girlfriend's work email and sent her an email saying she's sorry she didn't make her a bridesmaid, but her scar would make it not possible because of photogenics. Number 1, my sister chose her bridesmaids when she got engaged over a year ago. 2, she didn't even know I had a new girlfriend until after the RSVPs were due back. And 3, she and my girlfriend have never had contact. My girlfriend would have never thought she should be a bridesmaid for someone she's never met. I don't know what my sister was thinking, but I hate that she was so hurtful to my girlfriend for no reason at all. She hasn't answered my calls or text asking why. A commenter says to OP, I wouldn't go to the wedding, but I don't have a healthy relationship with my sister, so I'm probably being biased. Commenter says, nope, not biased. OP's sister is a piece of work and sounds like she must be incredibly insecure to have to insult someone she has never met. Perhaps OP should ask his parents what is up with his sister, and she won't answer his texts. Please let her know he won't be attending. Commenter says, not biased, he shouldn't go. His sister is disgusting. Commenter replied to him, my siblings and I are really close, but if any of them pulled a stunt like this, I wouldn't go. Bullies are bullies, family or not. Commenter replied saying, this is beyond bullying. It's clearly a mental illness issue. The sister needs mental health treatment. I feel sorry for any future kid she has. Another commenter says, this would be a deal breaker for me. Cancel RSVP unless she apologizes. That was nasty, hateful, and needlessly rude. What a piece of work. Commenter says, bloody hell, is your sister Satan's spawn? Another one says, step 1, find yourself a good horror makeup artist. Another one says, ooh, the satisfaction I felt from reading your comment. Another one says, a big prominent scar running across your face would be nice. Another one says, best comment. Another one replies saying, or do special effects to mimic the girlfriend's scar and show up to the sister's wedding like that. Showing the girlfriend support and putting the sister in an awkward position of either having to deal with it or commenting on it so OP gets to explain her nasty actions to onlookers. Not a real suggestion. I imagine it might end up hurting the girlfriend more, and that's the last thing we want. And one more comment who says that was unnecessarily cruel. I'm guessing your sister doesn't want you to go at all, because otherwise, why would she do that? Scars add character. I get it. No one wants a scar, but people can still be very attractive with a scar. Maybe noticeable scars be the next big thing in body positivity. I was left just thinking, why? Why did she do this? Because looking up someone's work email just to send them a made-up rejection from a wedding they were never going to be a part of anyway is just some unhinged shit. And I always think to the build-up of this because it wasn't impulsive. She had to think about it. It was planned. She had to find the email address, write the message, and then press send. Every step of the way along this, she could have stopped, but instead, she doubled down. And for what? To make someone who's already self-conscious about a scar feel even worse about it. That's just malicious and awful. And I would have skipped the wedding entirely if someone treated my partner like that, so that they'd be the ones explaining to the guests why I wasn't there. As we say in all these stories, being family isn't a free pass to be an arsehole. But 3 years, 10 months later, OP does come in with an update and says, almost 4 years ago, I posted about how I had gotten serious/exclusive with my then girlfriend Katie after my sister sent out her wedding invitations. No one in my family had ever met, spoken to, or otherwise had contact with Katie because our relationship was still new. My sister took the time to find Katie's work email address and sent Katie a nasty email about how she could never be a bridesmaid in my sister's wedding because the scar on Katie's face would ruin the pictures. Katie had survived melanoma, and the scar on her cheek was from having it removed. I didn't even know Katie when my sister started planning her wedding, and Katie would never expect to be a bridesmaid for someone she had never met for a wedding that was less than 2 months away. I was furious with my sister, and I posted to vent about the situation. A lot has happened since I posted. Firstly, I'm gay. To say that my family was unhappy when I came out would be a colossal understatement, and I haven't had contact with any of them in 3.5 years. Katie and I are still friends. She is actually one of my most important people in my life, and even though we aren't together anymore, I'm still angry about how my sister acted and how my family supported my sister. To this day, I have no idea why my sister did what she did. Not that I would have excused my sister, but Katie was the same race, culture, background as my family, and I cannot figure out why my sister was so hostile to someone she had never met. I grew up in a relatively strict Jewish household. My family is very old school and conservative and traditional, and I knew none of them would ever accept me being gay. But once I stopped being in denial about it, I realized there was no way I could marry a woman or keep pretending to be straight. After I fell out with my family, I was still in a relationship with Katie, and she was the one who asked me if I was gay. At the time, I was so angry with her, and I ended things and didn't talk to her for a while, until I realized she was right. It wasn't just her either. My friends had suspicions too. I ended up apologizing to Katie for getting angry with her. Looking back, I've been in denial because of how I grew up. Katie is Jewish too, but she didn't grow up in a family like mine, and she clocked it a few months into our relationship. She's one of my best friends now, and was the first person I came out to. I will forever be grateful that I moved to another province to pursue my master's degree, because if I had not gotten away from my family and met supportive people like Katie and my friends, I would still be deep in the closet. My friends all supported me when I told them. I've been going to therapy for the last 3 years to deal with my upbringing and my family disowning me. I'm an atheist and I stopped being observant when I came out. This year, I'm going to Pride for the first time. I'm nervous, but a bunch of my friends, including Katie, are coming with me. I'm going to dip my toe into dating because I feel ready. Anyway, sorry if I rambled too much. I only remembered my first post recently and I wanted to come back because everyone was so kind after such a horrible thing happened. I appreciate people validating that I wasn't wrong about my sister, and that was probably when one of the first cracks started appearing in my old life. So thank you to everyone who replied back then. Appreciate it. Commenter says to OP, this stranger is proud of you for finding out who you are, and it's wonderful that Katie could be a part of that journey. She's your true family. Another one says, I'm proud of you for standing up for Katie at the time against your family. Sorry you have a toxic family, but I'm happy that you have a chosen family. Hope you have a wonderful time at Pride and good luck with dating. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, I just want to say a huge thank you to each and every one of you for being here today, for liking the video, for sharing the video with friends, family, whoever you do, for being involved in the comments and supporting one another at the same time. It's absolutely wonderful. So thank you once again, and hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.